This is my 2022 Norco range, the critically acclaimed high pivot downhill smashing enduro bike, dripping with the best components, which I'm selling. Wait, what? G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel, and yep, I'm breaking up with my dream bike. But first I need to go back to how I came to buy this bike in the first place. Back in 2020, travel was cheap, COVID hadn't happened, and I was riding around on a very lovely Ibis Ripmo. Up until that point, I had preferred bikes with a bit less travel, but that preference was starting to change as we were doing more and more gravity riding. That was also the year that Norco released the Optic, which as you know, I bought and loved. Having the Optic as my trail bike, it freed me up to go as big as I wanted on my enduro bike. So I bought myself a specialised enduro. That bike was sensational, but a fault from the factory meant that my frame had to be replaced. By now it was the height of the pandemic, and a replacement couldn't be sourced. Since I was enjoying my Optic so much, it made a lot of sense to look at Norco for my enduro bike, enter the range. Well, not quite. While there were some spy shots floating around of the bike that would become the range, the release was still quite a way off. So I bought a sight, which I then beefed up with a coil shock and a longer fork. The sight was supposed to be a stopgap, something I'd ride for 6 months while waiting for the range, but with the release delayed and then delivery impacted by the pandemic, 6 months became 12 and more. And something else happened. I really liked the sight. It had perfect geometry and its all-day pedalability suited my riding style perfectly, and there was nothing holding it back on the bigger terrain. Made it! Phew! But the hype was building around the range, glowing reviews were coming in, and by the time mine arrived, I was pumped. But getting it going wasn't straightforward, and I faced some initial challenges setting it up. First of all, the shifting was hard to get right, and even once I got it consistent, it never had the crispness of a non-idler bike. Next, I had a lot of difficulty getting my cockpit set up right. Even though I had a consistent bar height and reach preference, those settings felt off due to the high stack and the lengthening rear center, and it felt like I was being pitched forward in big compressions.
Oh, big rock in the middle there.
I ended up trying a myriad of bar and stem combinations before settling on something that was shorter and higher than my previous preference. And then there was the noise. Fortunately, I was able to get through those teething problems and I ended up with a bike that I absolutely loved riding. The very slack head angle and huge amount of grip gave me a lot of confidence. It didn't matter if I was riding technical steeps.
Oh, we're going quicker than I want to.
Wide open fast sections or big jumps. I knew this bike would always have my back.
Stay off the brakes, Dad.
Range confidence is definitely a thing, and I was loving that.
Right, that's why we bought a bike like this. Wasn't set any speed records, but whew.
I also really appreciated the progressive suspension of the range. Compared to the side, I was able to run a 100-pound softer coil spring, and the feeling of the suspension was super consistent, which just added to that sense of confidence. But it was when I started racing again that the doubts started to creep in. I had taken a break from racing for the first half of 2022, but by the middle of the year I was starting to get back into it. And what I noticed was the range wasn't really playing to my strengths. I'm not an elite rider, so smashing through rock gardens at warp speed isn't really in my wheelhouse.
Oh shit.
And I need as much help in the corners as I can get. Where I am stronger is on the longer, more physical stages where fitness is just as important as bike handling skills. What I found when racing the range is I didn't really have the skill set to tap into its capabilities.
My bad.
While its weight and size took away some of the edge I had on the longer stages. And when I tested the range back to back with the site, I confirmed this. So it was more efficient and I could get in and out of the corners better, while I was able to go just as fast on the site on the sections of trail where a range would have an advantage in the hands of a better pilot. I found this to be true in everyday riding as well. The site is just as fast and capable on the trails that I like riding, while its greater efficiency means that I can go further and longer, which ultimately means I'm having more fun on it. While it's a nice luxury to have two enduro bikes to ride, having two bikes with such overlapping capabilities isn't something that interests me. Bikes need maintenance to keep them running at their best, and they cost money when you break or wear something out. And switching back and forth between two bikes means you never really get that comfortable on the one. I think you know where I'm going with this. But back to the range, it's a phenomenal bike. From a construction and engineering perspective, I think it's by far the best Norco to date, and the aggressive geometry and high pivot suspension really deliver on its promise of uncompromising bump eating and almost limitless capability. If you're the type of rider that really wants a downhill bike, but you also want to be able to pedal it up a hill from time to time, then this is probably the bike for you. And in the hands of the right pilot, I have no doubt that this will be a crushing race bike. At this stage, that's just not me, and I'll be on a different enduro bike for this season. So for now, it's goodbye to the range.
Yeah. Whew. I didn't die.